Good afternoon, Rhino. I get so excited on Wednesdays to be back on. So exciting. All right, welcome. Now we're going to give it a minute because we just sent out our email about 20 minutes ago. And purposely so, we wanted to send it at 1:30, and obviously 20 minutes ago is 1:40. I got tied up as I was writing it. So, all of our emails are unique, right? Like we make them ourselves. Now, some of them you might see, oh, and I saw this email last week. And that's because it had a really, really good reception and we're constantly welcoming new people on board. So we will recycle some of the really good ones. But also I like, obviously creating new ones and sharing new thoughts and new content and new angles. So I did that today. So we just sent it out and I suspect some people, hey Frida, I suspect some people are just getting it and just opening it. So we're gonna give it a minute, let them get in. But we already have a really great showing. Like, how cool is that? I'm going to do my best to live up to the V standard. I am getting a lot of feedback from a lot of people who say that she is wonderful. In fact, on our RhinoWorld this morning, there's Don. I was just going to say, yeah, tough show to beat. Don was like, she's wonderful. So look at Don jumping in both meetings to make sure that we keep the standards high, and we appreciate that. So let's let everyone get in, blah, 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 blah. Ooh, your girlfriend Mary will be joining. I love it. Well, tell Mary to get her booty in here. All right. So let's give it a minute, always aim high. Yeah, if you, what's the saying? If you aim for the moon, you land on the stars. Something like that. I'm not sure if that's actually geographically accurate, but I get the sentiment. All right, so we'll let everyone get in. And so it's funny. So from my perspective, when getting on the call today, I think to myself, hey, Justin, what's there? What do we touch on, right? Because so much is happening all the time. Like my wife woke up the other day and it was 6 a.m. and she texted me and goes, how come you're never in bed? Like, where are you? And she hears me verbally say, oh my God, I'm working. And because I had already been working for a couple of hours in that other room, I saw the text says, like, I'm working, duh. But to a normal human being, 6 a.m., where are you? So she walks into the other room and sees me on the computer. And I'm like actively, like vividly, saying the email got the two screens up here. And she's like, do you ever stop? And I go, no, when I die, I'll stop. End of story. And then I was like, I love you. I'll see you in a little bit. Right. So everything went just fine. But hey, what's going on, man? So much is happening. It's all the time. So earlier in the week, I sent out an email that's actually screenshotted the conversation. Hey, Abdul. Screenshot the conversation that we had with one of our team members. And that was a big risk we took, right? So what you'll never confuse Rhino for is conventional. I see it's funny because in creating Rhino, in stewarding Rhino, and it's funny because Laura, who's one of our most amazing Rhinos, always says to me, Anthony, you're Rhino. Like, what happens if something ever happens to you? And we have plan B, plan C, plan D. But I said, well, if something happens to me, it's not Rhino anymore. Like it's like Apple without Steve Jobs. It's still the largest company in the world, but what could it have been with him there? And, Rhino is Anthony. And Anthony does things the way Anthony believes they could be done. So right or wrong, whether it was nature or nurture, whether it was because my parents were phenomenal or my parents were really the opposite of what I just said, I grew up with a certain sense of just trust yourself. Like you can't always believe everything that everyone tells you. You cannot believe the way they're leading you, why they're leading you in the direction they're leading you, because you want to believe that it's in your best interest, but maybe it's in their best interest. Therefore, I grew up with a very strong trust yourself mentality. And with that being said, I also grew up fairly smart. So I was always able to do the calculation. I want to do this. This is what would happen. This is why I want to do this. I'm okay with that outcome. I'm going to do this. So it's a bit of a trailblazer mentality. And it's funny because the average person will always sit there and say, well, I don't want to be the first one to do it like that. Or if you're the first person, it's, I'm a little uneasy. I don't know how people are going to take it. I'm the opposite. And it's not that I don't care how people are going to take it. I care very much. But I don't believe that I need somebody to show me that they can do it first for me to go ahead and do it, because there's always someone that's going to do it first. Then there's someone that does it second, then there's someone that does it third. In fact, I learned at an early age, there's 3 ways to make money in this world. Either be the smartest, cheat, or be first. We're never going to cheat. We're never going to be the smartest, although we try. So if we have the opportunity to be first, well, duh, let's go do it. So that's how we manage every part of our business. That's how we manage everything we look at going forward. So when we sent out that email earlier this week, there was a screenshot conversation of one of our team members, Natalia, who is phenomenal. In fact, I've known her for over 10 years. She was a single mother who had the most amazing child, then got remarried and has an amazing family. Like, I know her. I like her very much, which is why we gave her the position to join Rhino. Okay, so Anthony, you knew this person, you liked them, you had them join Rhino. You welcomed them and they accepted. Great, cool. The hours I had given, the salary I had given, all of the things along the way that some people say to me, some people that know those numbers go, Anthony, you're like too generous of a boss. And I always say to everyone, no, I'm not paying someone for what they are today. I'm paying for what I believe they can be. And I'm showing them that I believe in you and I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Can you be that person? And more times than not, I find that that person either steps up to that role or they feel wildly uncomfortable accepting something they know is so much bigger than what they deserve. And in that, of course, no one says, hey, listen, that's too much for me, here's it back. Except if you remember Nikki, she did do that. We sent out that email when we parted with her. Anthony, I think what you guys are doing is bigger than me, and I don't deserve it. And I don't want to be the one to hold you back. You know how amazing that is when you have a team member that says they so much believe in you that they don't want to be the reason that you can't achieve your goals. That's the kind of relationships of our team members that I go ahead and, demonstrate from the top down in terms of culture. So when it comes to any team member, we're speaking Natalia now, we have a particular Rhino. Now, Rhino came into existence like 5 years ago. 3 years ago, Rhino went ahead and accepted outside money to go ahead and fund what you see now today. But back 3 years ago, Rhino was just an idea. Rhino was what we're sharing now, but me talking over the phone, me, me a stranger to you, one-on-one, and offering you terms to invest in Rhino. So one of those members was a gentleman by the name of Kirk. Now, I'm not sharing his last name, obviously, so like I'm keeping it stranger, but he has a name. His name was Kirk. And he went ahead and he was one of the original 10 that believed in Rhino enough to go ahead and put that initial dollar in when Rhino was nothing. Rhino was just a stranger's voice over the telephone. So that being said, when Kirk wanted to go ahead and put his business up on Rhino, because and it's always also really super cool that when your investors, when your people that know you the best, because they have been part of Rhino, see, our investors get a commentary from me every month. They have full access to me. If you think you have access to me, they have full access. And that's not to say you don't have that. They go ahead and make sure that A, they have that, but B, they also exercise it as well. So the full access, they have read every single thought I have ever had for the last 3 years as it pertains to business. Now, if you think about what happened 3 years ago, that was 2019. Was the world different in 2019 than it was in 2020? Different still in 2021? Different still in 2022. So these are individuals that really, they know Rhino. And when one of those members is so pleased and so impressed with what you're doing that they say, can they put their personal business on your platform? It's quite flattering. When that happens, I don't go ahead and go to I don't say, okay, we're going to give this one to Abigail because I know Abigail is so super duper duper that since this person's so special, we're going to give it to this super duper. No, that's not the way it works here. Everyone gets the same treatment. And that's not to say everyone gets bad treatment. Everyone needs to get the super duper duper treatment. And if in doing so, you fall short of that, that's okay. That's what we call a learning moment, a teachable moment. So in that interaction, there was a couple of teachable moments. And when they got to the point that our other rhinos emailed me to go ahead and share, hey, Anthony, the website that was up comes up as unsafe. I think it's someone trying to fish something. That hits right here, because you got to remember, Rhino is our dream on it living in real life. We cannot have a platform that ever harms anyone. That's beyond the pale. Like when your children are doing something, you allow them to make mistakes, but you don't let them drive a car because you're like, well, I need to protect you against death. Like if you bump your knee, fine, cool, here's a Band-Aid. But you're not going to destroy like your life. Like you're not doing that. So when I went, and that's one of those things, you put up a website that's unsafe on a marketplace, how bad could that have been? Now I know the gentleman, and I know it just came up as unsafe because it didn't have like the HTTPS, right? Like I know him and I know his company, but that's besides the point. I'm just sharing that with you as a one-to-one type of thing, or 1 to like 76 type of thing. As it pertains to the conversation, I happened to tell you was, hey, listen, this can't happen. Oh, no, I go, actually, I just got an email from one of our rhinos that this is up. She goes, yeah, I told you. I'm immediately like, that's not the response I wanted. But, you know, I have a role, right? No, I understand that. And I remember you telling me, but the site needs to come down. And I figured that was assumed. Well, I only do what I'm told. No one told me to take the site down. I see where this is going. Okay, great. That's my fault. I should not have assumed such a thing. Would you please mind taking the site down? I go, can you describe to me what happened? Why was that site up? I thought you were going to email him and let him know. Yeah, I did. He wants to go ahead and design a new site, which is cool. We love doing that for everyone. And she goes, so I told him to email Abigail. Oh, anybody that knows me knows that like I'm having a heart attack right now. We don't ever tell someone, okay, yeah, this is what you need to do. Now go over there and go do it. No. These are our rhinos. When you're part of Rhino, you're up here, right? End of story. So I said to her, well, okay, I appreciate that. But again, you're a couple of Band-Aids. You bumped your knee, not a problem. For future reference, we're going to go ahead and allow our rhinos to know. We'll email on their behalf, CC them in it, and allow them to make that connection. Now, we have to offer a concierge service. And it's not that, A, if we don't do it, we'll lose that person, which that is part of it. But B, we don't go ahead and lower our standards because we believe that that person's going to accept it. In fact, there's a movie called Chef with, what's his name? Jon Favreau. And he's this really great chef and he does everything his way. Well, maybe that's why I like it. He's like a trailblazer with his food and blah, blah, blah. Eventually loses his job because his boss is like, you're going to make the menu the way I want to make the menu, not the way you want to make the menu. And he goes, okay, you know what? See you later. Tell your story. Walk in. Your mom smells, right? And he said much worse stuff, but that was the gist of it. So he buys a food truck. And on this food truck, he has a son and he has a sous chef. And it's great. They're able to live their dream, travel the nation, and he's able to go ahead and participate in this thing he loves, which is cooking for people. As he's doing it, as he's testing out his items to see if people like it, he was at a work site and saw a crew and said, hey, you guys want some cubanos, which is an amazing sandwich. And I don't know why this nation doesn't have more of them, but I might actually have one today, but that's besides the point. So he has a son helping him and he's making the cubanos. And his son goes ahead and burns the bread on one of them. And he goes to offer it. And it's one of my favorite scenes from any movie. It gets me choked up a little bit because that's just the type of person I am. So his father goes, whoa, you don't offer that. Would you want to eat that? And he goes, we're giving it to free. He should be happy with it. His sous chef looked at him and they just had that look. And he goes, all right, can you hold the line for a second? So he takes his son on the side and goes, that is never acceptable. You never, ever try to take advantage of anyone. You give the best you can. He goes, I haven't always been a good father. I haven't always been a good husband, but I'm good at this. I love this. I love those people. So you either get on board or I'll bring you home. And the son understood it. And he goes, all right, let's cook. And the point is, you have to have standards. Anybody that ever participates with Rhino will always know that whether it's the best thing they ever had, it's the best that we can offer. It's that we seriously try every single day to get better and better and better. And that we will, no matter what, never sit back and never rest on our laurels. And I believe that's a message that every company shares, right? I don't know a company that in their marketing says, yeah, you know what, we're going to do our best, but if we're having a bad day, so what? So I think everyone says that. But I think the only way you could prove it is having a moment that actually demonstrates it. And when I responded to Natalia, I then responded with a long message the next day. And remember, that was to her. That was never to be seen by anyone. But after the interaction, I realized that this is a moment that I can share what goes on behind the scene at Rhino so that everyone that's a part of Rhino knows how the company operates, knows that every person you speak to, this is the filter they go through. And that if they do not, as Don wrote, because Don wrote back to me, he goes, I absolutely agree. Customer service is everyone's job. I called Abigail that night. I said, Abigail, we have to talk about Natalia. She's phenomenal, but there's only one thing in the world you can say to me that will have us part ways. Only one. It's not my job. Because not that you know me all that well, but there's not a single thing in my life that I've ever said that's not my job. I've had 3 or 4 jobs at a time, many times. I remember one time walking with holes in my shoes and not buying an umbrella because I did not have the money to afford the umbrella if I wanted to do something else. So to be told that's not my job, I just don't appreciate laziness. And I believe that we have a population that is the population we're looking to rescue. Like, I believe that people have been so grossly abused and taken advantage of that they go ahead and allow that frustration to roll downhill. And what do I mean by that? I feel like if you have a job and your boss treats you poorly and you have a bad day, then you go home and your wife or husband says something to you, you then snap on them because you need to feel some control, and you've been controlled all day. Now you're sharing and demonstrating your control by allowing that to roll downhill to your loved ones. And the unfortunate part is it's only your loved ones that will ever go ahead and react to you being hurt because they love you. Therefore, if you ever are being so taken advantage of and you just want to feel a sense of control and a sense of dignity and a sense that your word matters, the only place that you're able to direct it where you can reach that goal is loved ones. Therefore, it's not a far stretch to say corporate America and the abuse of the wealth inequality and all the things from the top down that's abusing that's abusing the citizens and the workforce of this nation, whether it be former small business owners that are now employees, or people that were unemployed that are brought in because they just need somebody to go ahead and fill a hole. They're then taking that frustration of being spoken to in such a manner and being treated as a number back home with them. And then when you go ahead and take a look at the demographics of the divorce rate and the household depression and all the rest, can you make a straight line? And I think you can. So what I'll tell you about corporate America is I don't think they're evil. I just don't. I don't think that they think so far as to even be evil. I think they might be sociopathic, right? Like, I think they lack empathy, which is fine because I actually don't have much empathy. I really don't. I have sympathy, but I don't have empathy. I don't even think that they have sympathy though, because they are accountable. So you know how, like, when you were younger or whenever you're going through a business thing, someone tells you, if you have a goal, say it vocally, say it publicly so that you're held to account, right? Like, you want to stop smoking and you don't tell anyone. You just say to yourself, I'm going to stop smoking cigarettes Monday. Then Monday comes around and you look around and you're like, well, no one's really going to hold me to account. And I'm going to know myself for a while, so I'll hold myself to account next week. I'll stop smoking next Monday, right? But God forbid you ever went on your Facebook. God forbid you said it to your wife. God forbid you looked at your 5-year-old child in the face and said, Daddy's going to stop smoking, I promise you. Well, now do you go ahead and pick up that cigarette anymore? Well, if you do, you have many hurdles. You have the hurdles of looking like a bozo in front of a kid that thinks you're his hero. You have a hurdle of looking like a loser to to the woman or the husband you come home that thinks you're a superhero. You have these hurdles that are very, very high passion. They're emotional to you, which is why if you want to complete a goal, you share it out loud. Rhino does a lot of that because Rhino understands the accountability. That's what Wall Street does as well. Wall Street has shareholders. Wall Street has companies that they then go ahead and sell stock to investors. Those investors own it by buying and selling it, which means the results of that Wall Street company are represented in the stock price. The higher the stock price goes, the happier everyone is. The lower the stock price goes, not only the more pissed off everyone is, but the more change that comes. The CEO goes, the executives go, people get fired. Therefore, that stock price is completely the only thing a company cares about because their entire performance plus standards of living is tied to that stock price. That stock price is tied to the whims of the buyers and sellers of the investors. Therefore, a company is only accountable to that stock price. Therefore, to go ahead and allow that stock price to go up, the company has to grow. For the company to grow, you have to take on more and more people, more buildings, more products, more labor, more and more and more. Well, I think you know, just like anybody else, if you have your cream of the crop, you're able to select whoever you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and make a company. I need to hire 5 people to grow this business. Well, 5 people is a relatively small number of people. I can find 5 super duper duper qualified people. Like, how many Abigails do you think exist in this world? I've been in business for years and I've met 1, right? So do I think I could get 5 Abigails? Maybe. Do I think I could get 10 Abigails? Less likely. Do I think I could get 1,000 Abigails? Probably not. But I need 1,000 people to grow the business from this to this to this to this. That's how Wall Street works. So in growing a business, they have to go ahead and put standard operating procedures in place. It's called SOPs. Those SOPs are there to discount any person having to think for themselves. Because when you have the top, the executives, you embrace them thinking for themselves. Abigail, V, Tanj, Natalia at one point, Rosario, Philly, Johanna, Nikki, everyone, I want to hear your opinion. Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Tell me. In fact, all of our rhinos, whether it's Ron or Dan or Don, Deborah, like everyone emails me all the time and I always say the same thing. Thank you. Everyone's advice helps. That being said, as you grow further and further, if you own a company that has 17 stores, right? Do you want the assistant manager of store 13 exercising his own procedures that are different than the existing manager of store 15, which is then so much different than store 2? You can't, because then nobody will go to any one of your stores because there's no consistency. Would you ever go to McDonald's if one place decided Big Mac sauce should have this ingredient and one place thought Big Mac sauce should have that ingredient? You can't. That means, therefore, to grow, you cannot allow opinion to enter into those ranks at all. In fact, if that employee wants to go ahead and express opinion, then they have to rise up the ranks based on their own merit. They have all these great ideas, so they share it with their assistant manager, who shares it with their manager, and then they ascend. But that's also factoring in that assistant manager doesn't steal the idea as their own. That also assumes that assistant manager doesn't give it, that the manager that gets it doesn't steal it for his when he goes to the meetings and so forth and so forth. So it's quite conceivable that the larger the business goes, the more taken advantage of the lower lings are, right? So how do you go ahead and make sure that does not happen? From a top perspective, to grow a large company, you actually have to make sure that everyone is no more than a number. Because you cannot go ahead and create SOPs for people while factoring in their religious, their demographic, their age, whatever beliefs they may have. You cannot factor in SOP saying, okay, well, for store 17, if the manager's Indian, we need to make it like this to go ahead and respect their culture. But if the manager's Chinese, we need to do this. Well, it's also completely congruent with store. You can't do it. Everyone's a number. Therefore, every individual that you go ahead and have on your team is nothing more than a number. And in fact, what's the best system in the world for respecting a hierarchy? The Army. Our military is amazing because they know freedom isn't free. They know this country, and to protect this country, there has to be a hierarchy. You cannot have an Army cadet going over the general and doing whatever he wants because everything's planned from level to level to level. In fact, you hear the sentence, that's an order. And they say, okay, you got to do it. Well, that's why the military is so successful. So corporate America looks to the military and says, oh, if we can have a system like that, that'd be great. Well, guess what the difference between the military and corporate America is? If you're in the military, you're saving the world. If you're in corporate America, you save 10 cents on bubble gum you sold, right? It's a different thing. So you cannot treat people like that, but that is the path to prosperity. That's the path to growth. Take a look at Walmart. Do you think they're that large because they go ahead and care for every one of their employees? No, they care for their shareholders. Their shareholders do not care about any experience of any of the employees unless it becomes so large that it becomes in the news. Then all of a sudden they care. Meaning to grow large, meaning Wall Street as a function of being accountable to shareholders, then in essence, well, in being accountable to shareholders, Wall Street companies must continue growing to keep the stock price going up. In an attempt to continue growing, you have to constantly increase product, stores, and labor. In increasing labor, by default, you have to go ahead and treat everyone like numbers rather than people. That treating like numbers allows a very successful company, a very profitable company, where the executives are able to bonus and pay themselves an exorbitant amount of money to the point that they become lords. Because in Wall Street's growing and growing and growing, it cannibalizes small business. Because for a big business to grow, you must go ahead and either find new customers and how do you do that, right? Like natural rate of growth. If you conceive tonight, you're going to have a new baby in 9 months. 18 years from now, that's a new 18-year-old that's in the world, right? So companies grow naturally based on demographics, population growth. They grow by creating a new market that no one knew about, but they also grow by winning the customers of other companies. So when you have Wall Street fighting Main Street, that's okay, sort of. But as you can take this down the entire line of thinking, you can quickly realize that at the end of the day, Wall Street is going to grow large enough that they're going to be able to bully Main Street around. Because in the larger that they grow, they're able to have more people working for them. They come into more money, which means they have more marketing dollars, which means they can go ahead and cut costs. They can sell things at cheaper profit levels, lower margins. They can put you out of business. If Walmart wanted to put your company out of business, they can do it overnight. In fact, they can open a company next to your company, give everything away for free, do it for the next 10 years. And then when you finally go out of business, which would happen in like 2 months, they'll then start charging and they say, see you later, pal. Guess you should have saved for a rainy day because we're raining now. Welcome to Hurricane Walmart, right? Well, that's not really nice, but that's Wall Street. That's how they operate. And it's beautiful. It really is because they are so good at what they do. The problem that I have is that when Wall Street gets so large that it becomes fascist, where it becomes a partnership between big business and big government, where Wall Street is so large that they control such a level of population that they have so many customers that are dependent on their companies that they're able to institute discretion, right? They're able to do as they please because they control a population. That population no longer has any choice. What do I mean by that? So a larger a company grows, conceivably, it goes ahead and cannibalizes more small businesses. Well, small businesses are able to be those independent bodies. It's their business. They're able to make the decisions. They're able to hire the way they want. They're able to produce the products they want. They're able to go ahead and exhibit a certain level of personality and individuality that makes this nation beautiful. That level of competition allows the smallest, the demographic of the lowest income from this city somewhere to spur an idea that's able to grow and grow and grow because it has a path to it. That's the American dream, that if you work hard and you come up with a good idea, that you can go ahead and make it. Right now, I don't think that's possible. I think that's been squashed because the path to go ahead and start any business has so many hurdles in the place that it's just unfeasible. Because and the reason I'm able to bring this up is because COVID is a perfect example. One could make the argument that it's the small businesses that were essential during COVID, because small businesses are very localized. Small businesses are local to their economy, to their particular people. Therefore, if somebody walked in with COVID, they could contact trace by themselves. They know everyone in their community. Conceivably, anyone walking into that store is probably from a 10-mile radius. In fact, you could make the argument that small business would have gone ahead and solved COVID far quicker than big business. You know what the difference between small business and big business is? Small business doesn't have lobbyists in the government. Small business doesn't have investors in the government. Small business is not partners with the government. Big businesses. So big business was able to go ahead and make that pitch to government. And government said, well, duh, yeah, like that's a good idea. So they went ahead and locked down all the small businesses, but kept the big businesses open. In what world is that even close to being fair? So you're telling me you have Main Street businesses that can't compete with Wall Street businesses to begin with, but now you're going to lock them and shut them down for 2 years and let the big business go ahead and vacuum up all of their customers. And then in the midst of doing all these different enhanced unemployment and payment protection programs and stimulus programs, you're going to print so much money, put so much into the real economy that you're going to create an inflation rate of 7-8%. Now wage inflation does not allow that new business, doesn't allow that small business to come back online and even get their former employees. Their former employees had to move on. They had no jobs. Now their former employees are getting $18, $20 an hour. That small business can't reopen and start paying these large wages. They need to get their customers back. Their customers are now buying things at cheaper rates because Walmart was able to undercut all the prices because Walmart buys in big scale. Walmart can sell toothbrushes much cheaper than you can because they buy 1 billion of them. So not only can you not compete on price, but you can't even compete on labor. So how do you go ahead and reopen a business? You can't, because you don't have customers. Customers all went to the big businesses. And you know what's unique about that, actually? What makes it quite interesting? And if you ask any one of those customers, do you enjoy shopping at Walmart? They'd say no. If you ask any one of those customers, do you enjoy going to Target? They'd say no. If you ask any one of those customers, do you enjoy going to, I don't know, name a restaurant, Cheesecake Factory rather than Sweet Lou's Cheesecake? They say no. If you ask any one of those customers, would you prefer to support one of those Main Street businesses, you know, from the towns you grew up in, like the people you knew, like the neighbors you had, that allowed community and everything to form and allowed an individuality rather than being corporate, you know, customers that are just numbers? They'd all say yes. In fact, if you ask any employee of these corporations, would you rather work for a growing small business that actually was small enough that they knew your name? That by definition, they could, being such a renaissance of small businesses, only a very, very small percentage of them would actually become so large that they would be able to franchise out to the point that they'd ever get as large as Walmart, but they didn't know your name. Would you like to be, hey, listen, Walmart employee, would you rather work for like a new startup business, a Main Street business that sells clothing and sells all these, you know, general store type items, right, local to your, you know, where you live? They all say yes. So what is the definition for people that are put in positions because they have no choice and they're forced to do it? I don't know. I think we get back to this whole slavery debate again. Like, I understand the word, right? Like, slavery is a really, really bad thing, right? Like, let's get that out of there. But to go ahead and take away people's choice and stuff on a much lesser scale, right? Like, let's get that out there. But to go ahead and take away people's choice and force them to do things without giving them options of what else they could do is a type of enslavement. Can we agree? And I don't like it. I just think that's really bad. I think that the world needs a superhero. I think someone needs to solve this. And I think that's what Rhino's doing. And I know that's what Rhino's doing, because this is how Rhino solves that. It's very simple. Wealth, as far as that inequality is only an illusion. Yeah, easy to say. if you have no wealth, it's not an illusion. No, it's an illusion. Wealth is simply a fickle thing that comes and goes. It transfers at the speed of light. Those that don't have wealth today does not mean that they can't have wealth tomorrow. To believe that you're never going to have wealth is a mindset. It's that you believe that you're unable to solve something. And maybe you are, right? Like, that's fine. The world isn't going to have a bunch of people that come up with a solution. The world is likely going to have a solution, but do you have the ability to identify the solution? Do you have the ability to have the vision of the solution, say, I see what they're doing, I want to be a part of it? Because that's what we need. And here's the solution. So wealth is really just a measurement of the control of customers, right? So if I'm the CEO of Walmart, I have all of these stores with all of these employees because I have all of these customers. I know that every single day I'm going to have X amount of customers. I know that if that were to change, it would change in a noticeable way. Like, I would see the trends. All right, I have 0.0001% more customers today than I did yesterday. That's good. I have 0.0001 less customers than I did than yesterday. Why does that happen? Let's figure it out and let's solve this. So if you're diligently on the big numbers, you can go ahead and attack that and make sure that you always are growing, or at least always staying relevant. That's good. So if you're able to accomplish that, which sounds quite accomplishable, well, then what is your wealth? Your wealth is a lot, because you have all of these people that are coming to you, asking you to give you their money. That's what customers are. Hey, I would like this. Please take my money. Please take my money. Because if they don't do that, they get arrested for taking the goods without paying you. It's called theft. So one could say, well, your wealth is completely dependent. It is actually quite in alignment and correlates with the number of customers that you control. Because the CEO of Walmart, and let's not say the CEO, the shareholders of Walmart, right? Because they own Walmart. Their wealth is in Walmart stock. The shareholders of Walmart are worth whatever they're worth today. If Walmart had no customers tomorrow, do you know what they'd be worth? They'd be worth less than zero. You know why? Because Walmart has all of their debt. Now, that's not to say, if Walmart has debt and this company doesn't. No, it's called mortgages. It's called stores. It's called contract. Like, every business has debt money that they promised out based on what they believe their numbers to be. If Walmart all of a sudden had zero customers, every one of those shareholders would be wiped out. The company would go bankrupt. The company would have to sell all of its assets off, and they would still never recoup how much they owe investors. So if Walmart had to sell off all their assets, what does that actually mean? Think about all those stores. So it's conceivable that each Walmart store can actually be owned by that community. All right, there's a Walmart store in Freehold, New Jersey. Walmart had to sell it off. They went bankrupt. Someone steps in and buys it. Now that's their supercenter. Freehold, New Jersey has a local business called Freehold Supercenter. It used to be a Walmart, right? Can every town that ever had a Walmart do the same thing? Those locations, they would be managed independently of each other, because a small business owner built it. That would be a Main Street company. So how does Walmart ever just go ahead and lose all their customers? Because, Anthony, what you're saying sounds like the most amazing small business renaissance. Why stop at Walmart? Why not Target? What about Benihana? What about every different company? But how do we do that? And like, if we stop shopping at these Wall Street companies, what happens then? Like, where do we shop? Where does that money go? How do I find a small business? I can't even find a small business. How do I find a small business? Like, I go on Google and I type pizza. Does a small business pizzeria come up? Bad example, because the answer is yes, because Google is geotagged and they're going to give you something local to you, right? But still, I think Domino's is probably number one. Pizza Hut's probably there. All right, and I want t-shirts. Is it going to come up with like Lou's T-shirt factory down the block? No. All right, and I want shoes. I want a desk. I want pens. I want computers. I want chairs. I want shirts. I want whiteboards. I want food. How do I get them from small businesses? Well, you can't, right? Like, that's ding, ding, ding. where would you find it? These small businesses can't go ahead and get listed on Google. Google is a Wall Street search engine. The Wall Street search engine is accountable to shareholders. Wall Street companies are accountable to shareholders, which means the people that they list in a Wall Street search engine is likely going to be the biggest companies that can pay them the most money, because the more money the company makes, the higher the stock price went. We went over this already. So why would Google ever, out of the sincerity of their heart, say, you know what? We see that Charles is from wherever he's from, and his searches, we're going to just come up with local businesses, assuming that there's even local businesses, because remember, the pandemic wiped out all small businesses. So not only do you have, what's it called, an extinction of small businesses, but the ones that are left can't find listings, which means they're highly an extinct population, which means when you extinct all small businesses, what do people do? They either have elevated themselves from a small business and somehow had a really successful one, and they're a really large business, in which case now they're up here because they were able to vacuum everyone else up, or they're down here and now they're dependent on business for employment and government for subsidies and compensations and unemployment and food stamps and stuff like that. Which means you now have a serfdom population that's far larger than this nation ever should. Do you know that Warren Buffett plus Bill Gates plus Jeff Bezos equals more net worth than the bottom 170 million people in this nation? Do you know the top 1% actually owns 76% of the wealth of this nation? Do you know that the top 50% own 98% of this nation? Do you know the bottom 50% own 2% of this nation? And those numbers are even worse across the globe. So what are we talking about here? You can look at those numbers and say, yeah, well, they worked really hard. Well, I say that people are actually people, that you cannot have a serfdom population, you can't have an enslavement population. That no world does Warren Buffett and his 80-year-old, I'm going to drink root beer floats all day, need $100 and something billion. Now, that's not me saying go take it from him. That's not right. The guy worked hard, and whatever he did, he did. That's his money. What's his taxes, right? And we're not going to get into tax debate, but does he pay his fair share? What's fair share, right? These are just questions we're floating. But more importantly than that, what would his worth be if he wasn't a direct beneficiary of this corporate and government partnership that's been going on for 20, 30 years, but it's been exponentiated because of COVID? I don't know. So how do we go ahead and solve that, right? Because here's the beautiful part about what's going on today. You have the most amazing opportunity ever to be the spearhead, to be the change of the most amazing small business renaissance ever known to man. And why would it be the most amazing renaissance ever known to man? Because there is no small businesses. So if you were able to grow a population of small businesses that are thriving, that would be amazing. That, by definition, would be a renaissance. This is not hyperbole. This moment in history is fertile ground to have the most amazing renaissance of small businesses ever. So how do you do it? Well, I would argue that it's actually really simple. Like, I would actually argue that it's the simplest thing you could ever do. In fact, I believe you can do it from your computer, changing nothing about your life. In fact, allowing me to give you stuff. I actually think that's true. I think it's called Rhino Street Search Engine. See, if you want to go ahead and support a Wall Street company, go use a Wall Street search engine. If you want to go support a Main Street company, use Rhino Street Search Engine. Rhino Street is actually being coded right now. I was on the phone with the coders yesterday. It's going to be done this week. We're not revealing it till the end of February, but it's going to be done. Rhino Street Search Engine is a search engine that we own. Google's a search engine, Yahoo's a search engine, MSN's a search engine, Bing's a search engine, DuckDuckGo's a search engine. All of them are MSN, they're all search engines. Do you know how powerful a search engine is? A search engine might be the most powerful thing that no one ever talks about. It literally is the journey, it is the pathway, it is the gateway between your thought and impulse to actually being able to take action on it. You want to buy socks? Let me look up socks. Bing! Brings you right to a company that sells socks. Well, if you go to a company that sells socks, well, you want socks and you just search socks, you're probably going to buy socks. Now, how valuable are you to that company? You're quite valuable because they were able to make a sale they would have never otherwise been able to make. So who are they paying, right? Like that's a value. There's other stock companies out there. Why did you get that one? Well, they're able to go ahead and pay Google or whatever search engine the most amount of money to be the result that you see first. Therefore, the results on a search engine is the whole game, because if you can have a search engine that shows you, well, then the person searching it is going to have the opportunity to purchase from you, which means it's a two-pronged approach. Can you go ahead and grow a user base that uses the search engine? And if so, can you then go ahead and populate good high quality results? Well, both of those questions can be answered via today. How 1% of the population owns 76% of the wealth. 50% of the population owns 98% of the wealth. 50% of the population only owns 2% of the wealth. What percentage of those people feel quite frustrated in that economy? Probably a lot. How many employees are there of companies that wish they could start their own business, but they don't have the means to? Rhino will make the website for you. How many people wish that they could go ahead and be a part of this renaissance and wish that they could be a part of purchasing things and supporting small businesses? Probably everyone. So what if there was a search engine that disqualified Wall Street companies? What if there was a search engine that only showed small businesses? What if there's a search engine that actually went ahead and went and traveled this country, did lives every single day, educated the people? This is what we're doing, allowed you to walk with us step by step. And I promise you, starting April, when I go ahead and travel this country on every weekend basis, going to different towns and educating the entire country, because that's what I'm going to do. And I welcome every single one of them on. We will have a population on this search engine that is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Why do I say that? The people that are the results are also going to be the ones that are searching. It's not like I have to find two different groups. Hey, would you like to be on this search engine? Do you have a small business? Would you support small businesses? Would you use the search engine you're on? Done and done. Would you share it with other people? Yeah. Everyone you share it with is going to search and come up with your company? Yeah. Well, Lance, what do people have to pay for that? Nothing. We are the ones that own it. We as in us, rhinos. Because that Rhino coin that everyone continues to purchase is what finances exactly what we're doing. Because in January 2023, where every single search result goes ahead and every single purchase on the platform gets converted to Rhino coin, which businesses can then convert right back. How does that work? I sell 100,000 t-shirts. I'm a result on Rhino Street. I sell 100,000 t-shirts. I collect $100. That $100 settles. That $100 immediately gets converted into Rhino coin, which is $100 buying of Rhino coin. That business owner could say, well, I don't really want $100 in Rhino coin. I'd like to redeem that immediately. So it buys the coin, then it sells it immediately. And why would you ever go, what's the point of that? You're buying and selling it. It's transactional volume, which means the transactional volume of Rhino coin is directly correlated to the growth of the platform. Therefore, if the platform grows, the more purchases grow, the coin goes up in value. Now, if that coin is essentially capturing the entire growth, capturing the entire population of this small business renaissance. If you were able to own an asset that completely and 100% captured the growth of small business, if you were able to own an asset that actually exemplified and valued the renaissance of small business globally, would you? The answer is yes. Those people that see that vision of purchasing the coin that's allowing the company to be funded to go ahead and perform it and grab this goal and accomplish the goal that we're looking to accomplish. So that's Rhino Street, right? I get so worked up. Rhino Street, right? So it's not functional yet. Like we own rhinostreet.com. You could go to it. I'm sure I was told showed everyone yesterday. We own rhinosearchengine.com, which redirects to Rhino Street. Just in case somebody wants to get cute and make Rhino search engine, you can't. We own it. That search engine is going to be where all the magic happens. So for those companies that want to be on that search engine, get on Rhino Marketplace. That's how we're allowing everyone to get in. Those people that want to own Rhino coin, go buy Rhino coin. Those people that want to be a participant and get rewarded Rhino coin, go ahead and be a partner of Rhino. We have every which way to make sure that you're a part of it. Do you think that we do these an hour a day because we have nothing else to do? It's not that. We are here right in front of you to show that we're always going to be right here with you. We're showing you that this is what we're doing. Every single update, every single thought, every single passion, everything is right here. You never have to wonder about Rhino. You never have to worry what's going on over there. In fact, let me give you some more updates, right? So Rhino Street is being coded as we speak. It'll be done by this week. Now, that doesn't mean you could go on the search engine and find anything, because you won't. It's just going to be done. Also, I was on a call yesterday, a four-way call, right? It was Abigail and two videographers. These videographers are from South Carolina. They are very accomplished. We went through an entire 13-scene commercial that I wanted filmed. It's already 2:50. I'm not going to share it with you. Let's do that next Wednesday, right? Scene by scene by scene. Let me give you the gist of this commercial. It goes ahead and illustrates that it's not demographics that separates us, it's economics. It's not demographic warfare, right? It's economic warfare. And the only people that are interested in telling you it's demographic warfare, like your cop is not your friend, your neighbor is not your friend, that race is not your friend, this gender is not your friend, are the people that have the economics. Like the people that own the media and disseminate the media are the ones telling you that they're not the ones to blame. Well, duh, right? Like, what do you think they're going to tell you? So this commercial, what it illustrates is a complete day from a parent waking up to a parent going to sleep. And what this day looks like, all of the traditional, you bring you wake your kids up, and, I'm a parent now, and I can tell you that I don't wake up by an alarm clock. In fact, my wife and I, if we wake up because the alarm clock wakes us up, that's the day started good. Like, that's a reward. Because when you have a kid, your kid wakes you up. And I think that's something that Rhino Street understands, Main Street America understands, that when your day starts with an alarm clock, you're already winning. Not 10 years ago where it's an alarm clock was like, oh, I'll go to math class later. No. And what does it mean to go ahead and be able to feed your kids? And they're running all over the place. And this one has shampoo in their hair. And they go ahead and just take the sandwiches and run to the bus. That's a real moment. What does that mean? Take that, go throughout your entire day while that person is morphing, right? So let's say the day starts with a middle-aged white woman, right? Like, this is what her day looks like. And then she gets to work. But there are Chinese people that go to work. There are other races that go to work. What does their work day look like, right? So this person changes throughout this persona, this demographic, this race, this gender changes throughout the day, and the day stays traditional to that person's traditions. What it's meant to display is we are all the same. Just because I eat this and you eat that, or I live here and you live there, we're not each other's enemies. We all share the same day, except maybe you eat curry and you eat something fried. Like, that's the way life is. We're not the enemy. Economics is the enemy. So the commercial also shows in every scene a contrast. So a 3.5 second for Rhino Street and a 1 to 1.5 second of a contrast of what it looks like on Wall Street, right? Like, while you're tucking your kids in at night, shutting your phone off, there is someone on Wall Street that has their wedding ring on their cell phone that's vibrating, saying home, and the ring falls while they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, right? There is a contrast to having too much money and too much power. That absolute power corrupts absolutely. And at the end of the day, as a parent, you get through your day, your wife, your husband, everyone's settled, your kids are in bed sleeping well, and you finally get to the computer. And I know this because at the end of every day, I get to the computer at night while my wife is sleeping or whatever, and I finally have that half hour where I can say, okay, what's some new ideas I can think of tomorrow? That's my reward. I do it all for that moment, or the email I go back and forth with Ron, or whatever the case may be. That's what I do it for. And in that moment, I'm Rhino Street. I would like to support Rhino. If I want to buy something for myself, I want to do it on Rhino Street. If I want to look something up, I want to do it on Rhino Street. Anything I do, I want to do it on Rhino Street. Because at the end of the day, I want to go ahead and support those that are just like me, because we're all in it together. So if I'm able to understand and share the education with everyone, this is how we do it. That every time you press the button on Rhino Street, you are directly supporting another member of our Renaissance, and you are directly taking a customer away from Wall Street and giving it to Rhino Street. And with that education, I think everyone would say, duh, I want to do that. I finally have an ability to do it. I finally have a medium to do it. I finally have a platform that allows me to do that. I finally have the choice and the options to make that choice. So that's the commercial. That's coming out middle of March. We will show that to you. April is when we're going to be doing all the different events. I was looking for a publicist role. My wife says, Aunt, I'm going to be traveling with you. Like, I'm going to miss you. And this will be a great thing to take our son and allow him to see America. So why don't I just fill that role? And I said, it's actually a really good idea. Who's more in control? Who's more qualified to run my calendar than my wife, right? With my family. So we have the publicist role already down. We have the Rhino host role already down. We have Abigail, who is married to Rhino forever and ever. We have, who am I missing? All right, so we have all these different roles, right? And we're still going to move on. So we have Rhino Music, which is in the works. In fact, in the next 2 weeks, we'll have some kind of movement with there. It's either going to be a 1 hour platform like we do every day, or it's going to be a streaming music service that allows you to download an app and just tune into Rhino Music. Rhino Music is going to be headed by a particular person who is going to be able to bring on all new music that no one's ever heard of because the big labels don't allow it, right? So how can we continue supporting the arts, right? Like, let's do that. Abigail, this is actually quite funny. Well, not funny, but I think I was able to convince her to do a 2-week, 1 hour a day live. Because there's a lot of work that she does all day. And I said to her, I go, Abigail, I get you're like this shy, like hacker looking, like you don't want to be on camera. And she always laughs at that because I say she looks like a hacker, right? Like she looks, the way I think a hacker looks, she looks. And it's not a compliment or a bad thing. It's just, it is, whatever. And I say it to her, right? Anyway. So while she's making Wix sites, or while she's doing anything, now again, this is gonna be structured. You guys know me in Rhino Digital. It was a structure, but she has such skills. I was like, not only would our Rhino community love being able to watch, like what you do, like just shared screen for that hour, not only would they really, really prosper in being able to ask you questions like, hey, I have this issue, how would you solve it? Or how are you going to do this? Or how do you do that? Or what's your best advice for this? Or can you demonstrate a tutorial for this? But in constantly growing our base, which actually has grown less this week. I think we have like 2 new rhinos and it's Wednesday. So just know that I know that and I'm on it, right? And I guess this is probably a function of that. But can we send that email out and say, and open that up to the public at large? We're doing a 2-week boot camp of computer tech, right? Like, we'll obviously word it much better, but those boot camps go for so much money. We can do it for free. Just come into Rhino. And then upon doing so, we're going to hire someone that's going to fill that role. So the new Natalia is going to have the same exact skill set, except in that new job description is a 1 hour everyday role, like V does with RhinoWorld, like I do with RhinoWorld. Because I think the goal is, as we get larger and larger, I want to be a Rhino TV guy, right? Like I want to send one email every morning, RhinoWorld this time, RhinoWorld this time, Rhino Music this time, so that anyone from any walk of life, Rhino dating, Rhino health, Rhino whatever, can say, well, I know Rhino will not sacrifice standards, right? I'm already in this one program. I kind of always want to learn about that one too, so let me go check it out. And that's how we're going to continue growing and growing. Because once everyone is able to cross-pollinate into all the different areas of Rhino and then be a complete participant in putting their business on the Rhino Street search engine, I think we're just making a new economy. I think we're just crowdsourcing a digital economy, and we're gonna do it. So all of these things are moving, they are going forward. Those are the latest updates from, behind the curtain of Rhino, like, hi, I'm right here. And if anyone needs me, I'm here. But I just wanna let you know that when you don't see me, these are the things that are happening and these are the things that are being done. Next week, I haven't said to be yet, but I'm going to switch my Wednesday. I have a court appearance Wednesday. Silly jury duty, nothing big. I promise I'm not going to be arrested. I'll be right here with you. That being said, I think I'll swap it out for maybe Thursday or whatever's best for her. So we will keep you posted. But rhinos, you are my heart, right? Like we're going to do this. And the fact that you're here in such, like we have our highest participation I've ever seen right now. Thank you. So I love y'all. And I'll see you guys on RhinoWorld tomorrow. And please tell V I did a good job. I don't want her to think that I've torpedoed her platform, right? 3 o'clock, we stay on time. Love you guys. Bye.